I can ask pretty much anything. That's
You
what
can
I'm
ask
getting.
anything. Very rarely I'll be like, nah, can't do that.
Okay, so now I'm interested in why you're allowing me to be able to have this freedom to ask whatever. That's interesting.
I'm a very reasonable person and I have nothing to hide either. And I try to be always as transparent as possible to like kind of uh stop people in their tracks when they come up with this like weird assumption of me. You know what I mean? I think it's hard for me to put on a front if I know I'm being very transparent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Gothix, I've it's been a joy watching your journey the last 8 months. Okay, we could start.
8 months.
Yeah, here's what I mean by that, right? Because I knew of you based on different interviews that I've watched, and then that the last couple of months is when I was really intrigued, right? So I'm honored to have you on the show. So thank you for even taking the time to come and hang out for a little bit. How long do I have with you? So I'm sure on time.
You got me, let's say 2 hours.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't think I had that much time. Okay,
You do.
that's good. That's great, actually. So you are, from what I've gathered, a comic, a brilliant mind, an incredible person, and this is from not having any prior interactions with you. And I'm just so honored to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know how far I want to go back. I don't know if I want to go back to Kentucky or high school or so I'm trying to gauge how far I want to go back for us to have proper context of you creating content and your style of creating content. So I think I'll probably start around high school. So take me on a journey of what was happening around that time. What were you like back then?
Okay, back then, I feel like I was very I guess I hate classifying myself as this, but I was the loser. So I didn't really I didn't really fit anywhere except with like, the nerds, the weirdos, like that type of group. Um, I didn't I didn't really do very well in high school in particular because I had a lot of like family stuff going on at home. My biological dad was kind of abusive growing up. So like mentally, like it was just like taking my mind away from like my studies. So I essentially said, screw it, and dropped out of high school just because like I felt like I just couldn't focus and I felt like I could do a good job on my own without having to be in high school. So like to be honest, high school was pretty much like a blur to me just because of like how quickly I kind of just like dropped out. I dropped out like junior year, I think, but I had actually stayed a grade back because I was doing so bad. Not because I'm stupid, just because I just wasn't doing my work. Yeah. So I think that was really it for high school.
Were you doing art back then, or were you into any broadcasting stuff or anything like that back then? Like at the time that you were there?
Um, when I was there, I was doing modeling like as a hobby when I wasn't in school. And that was like the extent of any creative passions that I had back then. Because I went to a technical high school, so I was supposed to be studying culinary arts. And that never ended up happening. So really, my creative mind really started getting, inspired after I left high school. So like into my adult life.
Okay. All right. So then from high school, what were the next 2 to 3 years like? What happened in that range?
In that range, I believe moved out of my parents' house, got my first apartment, lost my job, uh, couldn't file for unemployment, skipped out on my apartment and moved across country to live in Kentucky with some guy that I met online.
Yeah, walk me through that.
Yeah. So I met some guy online. I was lonely, right? So I'm in a chat room, meet some guy. We end up doing long distance relationship. And basically, when I had lost my job, couldn't afford rent, he said, "Hey, why don't you come live with me in Kentucky?" So I was like, "Okay, what's the worst that could happen?" Moved to Kentucky. I ended up staying there for about 2 years. And it was a terrible relationship. Like I was just so unhappy, but I felt like I needed to stay there because somebody was kind of taking care of me for a little bit because I had already gone through like a few years of like struggling financially to like pay my way. And I was just like, I don't know, it kind of felt nice to have somebody there to kind of take care of me for a little while, even though it was such like a volatile relationship. Um, but yeah, I stayed there for 2 years and then I forgot what the breaking point was for me to decide I wanted to move back home. Um, but yeah, it took 2 years for me to go back to Rhode Island.
Okay. So you move back
Yeah.
to Rhode Island,
Yeah.
and then what happens?
What the hell happened after that?
I don't know.
Man, you really going back there.
I'm going back.
After I
Uh-huh.
came back, I became a party animal.
Okay.
Because I was like, there's nothing to do in Kentucky. There's literally no civilization. So I came back and I was like, yeah, let's party all the time. Let's drink. Let's go out. Let's have fun. So I was like a mess. That was like when I was like 23 to 25.
Okay.
I was just going out a lot,
Okay.
drinking, partying it up with friends. So like I felt like I was living my party animal days the second I came back from Kentucky because I had no social interaction for like 2 years.
Right. So you felt like you were missing out and you were catching up?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what happened
Um,
after that?
After that, I don't remember.
Okay.
It could have been a lot of alcohol. Maybe that's why I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, after that, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then so 23 to 25, so 25 to 27. What's
20,
happening? What's
25
happening
to
in that range?
27.
Yeah.
Several failed relationships,
Okay.
several failed jobs. I ended up going to a temp agency because I
Right.
just could not find a job that I was happy with, couldn't pay me enough. Like I got
Right.
my GED after I dropped out, but
Okay.
because of like my lack of education, I didn't feel like I had any other skills to offer other than being a call center rep or
Right.
being customer service. So, temp agency placed me in a bunch of different places, and then I
Security
kind of
guard
just
stuff like you mentioned in the video. Yeah.
security guard. That was a weird one.
Yeah.
But I did pretty much anything just to pay the bills. And yeah, I pretty much like after 25, it had just been this routine of go to work, come home, go to sleep, go to work, come home, go to sleep. That was it. Like I had no social life and it was just like business, business, business. And it was always business, but I wasn't happy because I was working in a field that didn't make me happy.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
allowed to talk about that? Or you stay away from that for like
No,
legal reasons?
I can talk about anything. No, nobody's gonna sue me.
I'm just asking. I want to make sure because like, we don't do the prepping questions in advance and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But even in the midst of the conversation, I'm very mindful of that. There's just certain things that, can't be
Yeah, yeah.
discussed. So,
Yeah.
so what were you doing? So are we close to streaming time now, or there were a couple of years in between before that?
I think we're pretty close to streaming time because after I got back from Kentucky, I pretty much the main places that I worked at was like AAA,
Okay.
DHL, and Moo.com.
Okay.
Moo.com was the last call center I went to when I started thinking about the idea of streaming, and that was mainly because I had a coworker at the time that was a streamer herself. And she told me about it and I was like, "Oh, this sounds cool." And at that moment, I had this idea in my head like if I start now, maybe in a few years I'll be able to like have a career doing something else because I was just exhausted from doing the same field all the time. Um, but yeah, moo.com was like the beginning of me thinking. And even after that, even when I started streaming after Moo, I still maintained another call center job. That one I can't say which one it is,
Okay.
um but yeah, I kind of like eased my way into streaming. It wasn't like something I did just cold turkey.
Okay. So what skill sets did you learn from your previous jobs that you took into the streaming aspect of stuff?
Uh Active listening I think is a big one.
Okay.
Um Critical thinking. Um Being able to take initiative is another one. So I guess that can be translated into being a little bit stubborn. Like I'm one of those people that will try for hours to figure something out before I ask for help. So that was another skill set that I learned.
Why do you think that is though? Why?
Uh that as far as like why did I learn that?
Yeah,
Or
like why do you feel like you have to, especially if you have individuals that you're surrounded with that could potentially help you? Why do you feel like you have to dig in the dirt first before you ask for help?
because I feel like a failure if I don't. You know, I just like I always have been brought up with this idea in my head that, you know, like my mom always used to say a job isn't going to come knocking on your door. Like you have to go out and find a job yourself. No one's going to hand it to you. And if I'm able to take initiative and figure something out without having to ask for help, at least I can tell to myself like I'm able to do this. Like I did this. Nobody else helped me achieve this. So that's just something that and I this is it kind of bites me in the butt sometimes because I'm very known for being very prideful and not asking for help, especially with streaming, if we're talking about that. But like it's a hard habit to get out of, but it's the same thing. Like if somebody comes up to me and they ask me a question which could easily be found on Google, I'll be so appreciative if they took the initiative to look on Google before asking me.
Mm.
You know, it's like that.
Yeah, I think that there's so much information on Google and YouTube that we can easily just go and check it out. But I think that human interaction is something that is so important, even like during the times that we're living in right now, right? And I
Yeah.
think that for me, I'm trying to be a little bit more sensitive to that, you
Hmm.
know, and because we cannot connect the way we used to connect with our families, right?
Right.
And I think that that's where we are. So you started streaming what year?
2017.
Okay. And how's that journey been?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Very rocky.
Okay.
It's weird. It's weird to look at, you know, the first 2 years of my streaming versus now. It's like I was like when I started, it was like full throttle, like constant working, constant like just focused on my craft. And now I'm a very like I'm more laid back, just kind of like taking my time, and it feels a little bit weird.
Why is that?
But I mean, it's like it feels like I'm not allowed to take a break. Because I saw like a big chunk of my success because of how dedicated I was to my craft and how disciplined I was with my friends. Like, hey, you want to go out to a party on Saturday? Sorry, I gotta figure out this new concept I have. I gotta stream on this day. You know, I was very strict with my stream schedules, and that kind of like developed a very unhealthy work life balance for me where I don't, you know, it's kind of like hard for me to hang out with my friends, maintain relationships with people that I've known for years because for once I was focusing on something that made me happy. So in my brain, that was like I was justifying my actions by doing that. So like now it's just like, oh, I especially now with everybody on breakdown, it's a lot on lockdown, I'm sorry. It's a lot more evident to me how much I kind of put relationships on the back burner for the sake of my craft now. So I'm trying to like just take my time with content creation and just see if I can figure out the sweet spot of having that work life balance so that I don't neglect one part entirely because I'm focusing too much on the other part.
Okay, that's fair. So,
Yeah.
as I mentioned to you when before we even went live, is that I'm very intrigued with individuals that people want to get out of here, so to speak. I'm intrigued about why they want them to get out of here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 20. Okay, so but let's keep with the timeline before I get into that. 2018. What were you doing then? What was going on in 2018?
2018,
Yeah.
I think I was streaming. So I was working full time and then coming home at night streaming for a few hours a day. And towards the end of 2018, that's when I started getting the idea of quitting my job to do it full time.
Now, where was that?
Um,
Did you mention where what that was specifically, or we cannot mention
no,
that one?
it was a call center.
Okay.
Which call center? That's a secret.
Okay. Fair enough.
um, but yeah, so I was thinking of, okay, I want to try to tackle this full time because at the time I was making good money. I was very like my popularity kept growing, especially like on Twitter. So I was like, I feel like this, I've been doing this for a few months and I'm steadily seeing the same amount of income, same amount of success. So I was like, okay, so I set a date and I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave this job at this day, and it's all history after then, and it worked out after for like I think 6 months. It was like perfect until the stuff afterwards happened.
Which
But it
is
was
2019,
this was yeah into 2019 exactly.
fourth
Yeah.
quarter.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are we there? We there now?
Oh, we're there now.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm intrigued by individuals that who speak their minds freely and get hit for it. I'm really intrigued by that. Like, why do you want to get rid of this person? So when I saw, I've been watching your stream stuff on and off, and your content on and off for about a year and a half, right? So give or take, fourth quarter 2019, I started seeing all this stuff. And walk me through that. And I may have some questions in between. So walk me through that. I know you've told the story before.
Okay.
I'm aware.
Okay.
But I definitely need to understand because it's also helping me understand your mindset.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to hear all the nitty gritty of like what happened? It's like, okay,
Whatever you can tell me that's public, that you feel
Oh.
that you can tell me.
Okay, cool. So basically, if we go back a little bit to like, I guess like maybe 2018, I got invited to a Twitch community. I won't say which one it is, but I'm sure everybody already knows. So I got invited to a Twitch community that is specifically for content creators of color, and which I'm just like, oh, hell yeah, awesome. Because when I started streaming, I was already under the impression that there was kind of like not a lot of focus around Black content creators. Like I feel like we just don't have enough of them on this platform. So I was like, okay, this is something that I stand for. Let's join this group. And it wasn't until a year afterwards where I started to realize that I had different viewpoints from the majority of members in this other group. So one of the things, well, actually, the main thing that got people from this group really upset with me was when they announced that Disney was going to be doing a live action movie of The Little Mermaid. They said that they're going to have a Black actress play Ariel. And for me personally, I think that concept is so stupid because like we're running out of ideas in Hollywood. But I took to Twitter and I kind of like laid out my observations of just like as a Black community, I find it's very common for people to throw the race card out because they're frustrated or they don't understand someone else's point of view. So when a lot of you know white people started saying, but Ariel's white. Why are you having it Black? All of a sudden, you're racist. Well, no, that's not it at all. Because I'm also one of those people that are just like, why are you race bending this pre-existing character? You're racist. So that in itself kind of like makes the whole movement of more equality, more diversity, at least to me, a little bit problematic. And it's kind of like one of those things. It's like pick and choose your battles, I think. And I think that specifically is one of those like that doesn't really need to be messed with. you're never gonna catch me being upset over a cartoon character. It's just not gonna happen because that's not real world. So that was one of the things, and then there was another instant that I had commented. This was actually before the Ariel thing. I went on Twitter and I commented on someone else's post that I didn't agree with, and I've learned to never do that again now because Twitter is a beast. Uh, but this person posted a video of I think it was like an Asian American guy twerking and dancing and listening to hip hop and everything. And the person that retweeted this said something to the effect of, we need to not let other cultures use Black women as caricatures. And my interpretation when I saw that was, why are we assuming that that's something specifically that Black women do? That's how I read into it. And I said, if you say that that's a Black thing to do, then you have to own some accountability for, like, that's how you act. And they didn't like that. So I think that, and then the Ariel thing kind of started this cycle of everybody just not liking me. Um, and then it came down to, me being anti-Black and me having a predominantly white audience, which is why I think this way. At least that's what everybody was saying.
Is that the
So,
case though?
no, first of all,
Okay.
I can't help who supports my work. Like I can't ask for only Black people can support my work. That's just stupid. But as far as like me being anti-Black, absolutely not. I'm just anti-stupid. Like I said, I have been brought up to use critical thinking and just like think about things before I come to conclusions, and I know how to speak on stuff with some thought behind it instead of me just being angry at something, because that's usually the first thing people do is like you're angry and you want to lash out without really thinking things through. And so I'm not anti-Black at all. Quite the contrary, I'm the opposite. But I can see that it may be interpreted that way because I don't have the same viewpoints as like a lot of other people in the community. So
Okay.
yeah.
So those two things, okay, led to you saying, you know what, I'm gonna take a break. Now, what happened before you took a break? Was there a pocket where you debated where, if I take a break, am I, taking an L, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of like the personality from what I'm gathering is, I'm not here to lose, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that, I'm sharing my opinions because this is what I believe in, and you don't like it, understanding the fact that, as you mentioned in one of your videos, it is bullying, right? But am
Mm-hmm.
I taking an L if I take a break? So
Yeah.
walk me through that.
I definitely had that thought. And so basically after, my interactions on Twitter, a giant cancel culture mob was formed predominantly from that group that I mentioned earlier. And it really took a toll on my mental health. Like it really messed with me. My self-confidence was down. Like I was afraid to be myself because some of the comments that I was reading about me was like this Walmart badass personality, and that was very hurtful. So I went through this phase where I literally took the fun out of content creation. I took all my costumes, I boxed them up. I took all of my special scenes that I had in OBS, I deleted them. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I can still do this. So even after that, with the slight changes that I made to my setup, I was like, I'm gonna still stream. I'm gonna put a smile on my face and just try to get over this because I had already been preconditioned to understand that harassment and trolls kind of come with the territory of being a content creator. So it's something I have to get over at some point. But this had never happened to me either. So it put me in this really weird spot. But for like 2 months, I think I was still streaming. You know, I would.
That's first quarter of 2020,
This is no.
or
This was I want to say 2019 around August is when the drama started.
gotcha.
And then August, September, October, I tried to keep streaming.
You tried to, okay.
Tried to keep streaming. And then after that, that's when I was like, okay, I can't do this. So even though I was still streaming at that time, I knew that I wasn't okay because I couldn't stop talking about it on stream. And people had, prior to that happening, would come to my stream because they had a bad day at work. They wanted to get their mind off things. They wanted to laugh. And I wasn't able to fulfill that because I was too preoccupied complaining about these people that are still in my brain, right? So, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break because I need to go back to therapist. I need to figure this out because it's really putting like it was really just like putting a halt on my
Creativity?
exactly. My creativity, everything was just like halted right there. So took a break. And I got really depressed during this time, like super depressed. And I don't know if it was because like I said, I had a poor work-life balance. So I kind of pushed my in real life away to kind of stream. And so when I wasn't streaming, I really had nobody because I had pushed everybody away. So yeah, I was very depressed, very out of it. Uh you know, and during that time, I'll be honest with you, I attempted suicide during that time. Uh so I still don't know why. I still don't know why, but at that moment I was just like it just seemed like a logical thing for me to do, I guess. So after that, you know, I continued to take my break and I briefly came back on Twitch for a little bit after that. Like so basically I cracked my head open right here and I had like this really big scar. So I waited for the scar to heal before I streaming again.
Mm.
So most people don't even know that that happened, and you wouldn't have known unless I told you or showed you a picture of it. So I tried streaming after that. I went to TwitchCon.
What happened there? Is that
with the
yeah?
scar? So basically over the summer, I was like, I want to try skateboarding. I never learned how to skateboard. And I was like, let's try skateboarding. And I had learned, I was like a week into learning, didn't really know what I was doing. And I said, let me just go up to this top of this hill, not have a helmet on and see what happens. And knowing that that was a stupid thing for me to do. And I went down the hill and just bashed my head onto the pavement, hit a car. Like it was traumatic. But like my boyfriend was there with me at the time, and even he was just like, "Why the fuck did you do that?" I'm sorry, like, "What did you do that?" To me, it made sense. I don't know, like an average person that you tell them put a helmet on, like they wouldn't argue with you. But I was just like, I don't want to wear a helmet. I want to feel something because I didn't feel anything for a while. So, so yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point right here. I want to just pause.
Yeah.
Because I never said you. It's weird because you're censoring yourself, and I didn't ask you to censor yourself. So what happened with that? Because I didn't say anything. Because I know the kind of content you put out.
I try to be respectful. You know why? Because I was on another interview one time and I swore and I was like, oh, wait a minute. You put this on YouTube, you're going to get demonetized.
Right,
so
right.
I don't want you to get demonetized.
Well, yeah, so because I'm still trying to decide, where this video is going to land, if it's going to remain on the Twitch platform and stuff like that. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing. Well, go ahead, carry on.
No, I'm respectful of other people's money flow. I don't want to mess it up. So, but yeah, where the hell was I? Yeah,
the accident took place, and your boyfriend was there, and you didn't have the helmet on. And why did you do that?
Helmet on,
right?
Yeah, it was just very. I just wasn't in a good mental spot. And then after that happened, a few weeks after that, when I think I'm getting better, I find out that my ex-boyfriend committed suicide. So now it's like any progress that I was getting just kind of like revert back. So like you have to think over the course of like 6 months, like, the cancel culture happened, went to therapy, then I had the accident, reverted back. Then I got better a little bit, then ex-boyfriend committed suicide, reverted back. It's like just I haven't actually been able to take a mental break for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But that really messed with me. And that's when I was like around a little bit before Christmas. I said, okay, I'm gonna take a break for a while just to kind of maybe rebrand because I had already known that going back to Twitch didn't feel the same. So I wanted to try something different while I was working on myself. So, and that's why I came back to Twitch with like a talking robot and stuff like that. Just it kind of gave me a project to preoccupy my mind a little bit. So I wasn't so focused on all the negativity that was going on.
Yeah. So now it seems to me after those things took place, you have this zen about you that
Yeah.
may have been there before, but it's just different now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just different now. So what have you learned from that whole ordeal, those three events? What lessons did you pull from that that you're applying today?
To be honest, I didn't learn any lessons until the coronavirus lockdown started.
Fair. Okay.
And the lessons that I learn now is like life really is too short to live for other people. And at the end of the day, it's just you that's gonna be there for you. Stop worrying about other people. Everyone has um, free will in the sense that people change their mind. People may not always be there for you because that was something that was I was struggling with. I had a lot of supporters that stopped supporting me. I had a lot of people that I thought were friends just turn their back on me, and that really messed with me. And I guess just like now with everything going on and seeing how like much I value the people that I have in my life, the people that actually matter. I think it kind of just like it kind of humbled me a little bit to the point that I just kind of I cherish the connections that I have with people a little bit more. Especially with like the ex-boyfriend thing because I hadn't spoken to him in like a few years and I didn't know he was feeling like that. So it also helped me kind of open up and just communicate a little bit more about how I'm feeling with people because you never know, you know?
No,
Yeah.
no, you never know. So the rebrand took place. I saw the robot stuff on your Twitch, which is really really dope. I'm really digging that. You were doing some scene changes and different things recently with a desk. I did see that. You're going back and forth in the desk. At one point, you were blurry and you were making changes. So yeah, so I'm just letting you know that I was doing some homework, right? So as I did see those things, and there was a video that you posted on your YouTube, speaking about, streaming and 2020. I definitely want to touch on that and potentially get some additional thoughts there. So the rebranding, a necessity, you believe?
I don't think it was. For me, I don't think it was a necessity for me. I have been in this state where I remember how amazing I felt doing content creation. I remember how happy I was. And then after that whole drama on Twitter started, like all the fun was sucked out of me and I couldn't figure out why. And especially if I'm the only person in my family or my friend circle know about streaming, I don't have anybody to kind of consult with to get an idea of what I'm doing wrong. So I pretty much for the last few months just been changing little aspects of my stream. So rebrand, introducing the robot, different scenes, different schedule, just doing anything I can on my end to figure out if it's a variable specifically to streaming that I could fix to bring back that original, happiness that I once had. Or if it's just my brain saying, you know what, it's time to do something else. So I'm not there yet. I mean, I did start the podcast as like kind of like a buffer just in case. But I haven't given up on streaming. And even like the changes that I've done so far with like the robot and the whole aesthetic, like I'm still evolving it. And I think I'm getting closer to what I want is more of like a variety show. Like I'm big fans of I don't know if you remember Nickelodeon, they had all that. They had Keenan and Kel, like they had things like that. And I Mad TV, like I like that type of variety skit comedy. So I'm thinking of going that route where I have like every do like a different skit, you know, but like you might see the same skits like maybe once a week or something like that, you know. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm just gonna keep trying different things until I get to a spot where I'm just like, okay, this feels good again. This feels good because lately me streaming, it's like feels like I'm obligated.
Mm.
It feels like a chore, and that was the whole reason that I quit my job was because I wanted to do something that made me happy. I wanted to do something without feeling like I needed to be somebody else, you know, working in a corporate environment, you wearing business casual suits. That's not me. That's not my personality. So for me to get to a point where I was afraid to dress crazy or act goofy because of what other people thought, I felt like I was back to square one, you know?
Okay, so I wanted to ask also for the therapy, is that as needed or is that something that is in your schedule on a regular basis?
It's as needed.
Okay,
I'm sorry. It was as needed. Now with the corona, I told the guy, I said, let's have a Skype call every week now,
okay,
until we get to a better spot. But like, yeah, it usually is once a week.
okay. All right. So streaming, you feel obligated to the people. Do you believe it's a calling for you? Like, how are you thinking about that right now?
I don't think streaming specifically is a calling. I think creation is a calling, like doing some form of content creation. I love socializing. I love making people laugh. I think my struggle right now is trying to find a way where I can absolutely be authentically myself, but still have that job security. Because I think that was a big part of it is like being okay with pissing people off, losing revenue if it meant that I'm able to be myself. And that was hard. But I think I'm there now. Like to be honest, like the last few months I've been kind of living off savings. I haven't really been streaming. I, I banked a lot of the income that I made the first year I did this full time. So I have that luxury of taking my time to figure out how I'm going to make this work. But ultimately, I want to be able to create stuff without feeling like I need to censor myself for the sake of a paycheck.
Okay, so where does comedy fall into this? Because you do a lot of comedy in your creation, whether it's a YouTube video or as you're doing some of the things that you've been doing on Twitch. So how did you fall in love with comedy?
I just love comedy growing up. I love like my favorite comedian is Jim Carrey. I love The Mask. I love just like goofy, stupid, over the top comedy. And so I was like, I can do that. I can make people and I know I'm very good at it and I want to keep doing it. Um but I think that now the difference between me making people laugh now versus like a year ago is I want people to see that I have more of a personality than just like this goofy person on Twitch because I feel like that was something that a lot of people may have thought. It's just like, oh, she's just like a character. Like she doesn't have any personality. She's just doing it for show. And I can see how people would think that, especially because like before, I would end stream and I would go right to bed. I wouldn't hang out with my community really all that often. Like, but now it's like text my community members, I send them snaps, we hang out for coffee in Discord. So I feel like I'm building more of like a foundation for people to know me as a person rather than a streamer.
Okay, so the freedom to really express yourself the way you really want to express yourself. Walk me through that, because there was a shift that took place from last year into this year. So how are you feeling now in terms of expressing yourself, whether it's through the Twitch or any content creation, or just speaking your mind while you're thinking about branding and reputation?
So as far as like being myself now, I'm not scared about it anymore. I haven't been as vocal really anywhere the past few weeks. Understand? Um, I feel like I'm just not afraid to be myself. So I'll give you an example. Like I mean, you've probably saw you've been watching me for a year. So there was so before this whole corona thing happened, I took to Twitter and after a few months of harboring all of this like animosity towards one of the members of that group that did the whole cancel culture on me, I called that person out publicly, which is something that I never thought I would do. But I called them out.
Why? Why did you do that?
I think it was Black History Month on Twitch. Black History Month on Twitch. I go on Twitch and I see an article that says check out the people who are going to be representing Black History Month on the front page, and I counted about 6 individuals that partook in that harassment towards me, and I could not get that out of my head. Like how, like it to me, like how are we rewarding people for this type of behavior? Like how is this happening?
Okay, so I've heard you mention this before, but who would know?
Who would know?
Yeah, who would know besides the individuals who were either watching it happen or adding fuel to the fire on Twitter? So walk me through that.
Yeah. The only people that would know would be me and would be their group and then people in my community.
Okay.
Anybody from an outside perspective would look at that list and be like, "Oh, that's cool."
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay.
But the thing that was really getting to me is like a big reason that they went as far as they did in my situation was because they felt like they needed to hold me accountable. There needed to be some type of repercussions for me vocalizing what I thought, because since I have a big platform, I'm supposed to use my platform to like for good, essentially. And if I use that same logic, then I say, okay, well, and you're right, then you should also be held accountable for what you did as well, because you are representing an entire community on the front page of Twitch. So I said, okay, we're going to go with that same logic, and I'm just going to express how I feel and call this person out. I never got an apology for it, so let's see how it goes. And a lot of people were upset, mainly because I brought old drama back from 2019, which was only a few months ago, which is pretty funny. And so that was mainly why people were upset, but like, and he even addressed it. Like I still didn't get an apology. I don't plan on getting one, but it made me feel good. It made me feel better because I felt like that was me finally sticking up for myself. And although it took a few months to kind of gather my thoughts and just kind of like, figure out how I wanted to do this, it made me feel better because I think that set kind of like it kind of set this new idea that if you mess with Gothix, she's probably gonna go after you back, So I in my head, I'm like, if I'm gonna do this for a few years, or indefinitely, I need to set a foundation so people know that if they try to step to me, I'm not going to just roll over and play dead. Like I can't do that because I work my ass off to get to where I have achieved certain things on this platform, and to have random people just like try to take me down. Like I can't let. So that's why I did it. And sure, it may seem petty to some people, but only I know like the literal strain that it put on my mental health. And to me, it helps. So I can't complain.
Right. So closure. You needed closure.
I needed closure, and I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So streaming stuff. You're doing your thing. You got your Zen moment. Active, right? Mm-hmm. It's active, right?
Yeah. My Zen is active.
so now you decided to do the podcast stuff, and this is where I really wanted to chop it up with you a little bit, and find out if you had any questions that you believe that I can answer, and since you don't like asking, I'm putting it out there. I brought you here to ask you if we can help, right? Let's do it.
Spot? You couldn't put me on the spot.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. So a couple of things, right? A couple of things. The only thing, my only concern, right? And I'll put you in contact with some individuals that who are doing great things in the podcasting industry. I'll give you their emails and stuff like that. That's a promise. I'm not just saying that.
Oh.
So owning your masters is really important, right? Mm-hmm. We know that in the music industry and a lot of industries. And we've seen situations like the Taylor Swifts having challenges to buy back their creative process, right? That we've seen last year sometime or whatever. She's trying to get the music back. And anytime an artist, they do not own their masters, it's a struggle for them, right? So now there's some companies that they don't tell you in the fine print that they own your masters when it comes to podcasting. And the one company that sticks out right now is Anchor, right?
Okay.
Anchor doesn't let you know that they own your stuff. So when you try to leave, it's hard for you to leave Anchor from, grabbing all your audio files, all your podcast episodes, and then going to another platform if you decided to move. Yep, that's correct. Anchor owns your masters.
I did not know that.
Right. So basically what happens with that is in the fine print, they basically word it in such a way where, they own your content. That you create on there, right? So I don't know. So setting it up here. I don't know if you went with Anchor.
I did not.
Okay.
I went with Launchpad.
Okay. I don't know what Launchpad is doing. I hope they're treating you great. Okay. So now here's the issue, right? Why is that important? Because if I were to because I've been podcasting since 2009, right? So most of my content is podcast. Streaming came at a later date. So if I were to take 500 episodes and I was on Anchor, that would really be a problem for me to move all the 500 because it'll make it very difficult. And they wouldn't make it easy for me to go into FTP and pull all the files at once, I'm sure, right? So it'll make it very difficult. So for the individuals who are starting podcasts for the first time, there are companies that are great. I don't know what Launchpad is doing. I haven't researched them, but make sure that you own. You do because you created it, the episodes that you have, but make sure in the fine print that they don't make it hard for you to leave. So,
okay, did not know that.
So how's the podcasting going? So I definitely want to talk to you about that. How's that going?
So
I'm waiting for a fourth episode. Am I waiting for a fourth episode?
So consistency is a big problem.
Okay.
We record every week. Again, so I have 2 co-hosts, right? And my problem, like I said, is asking for help. So the first few episodes, I was doing everything.
Okay.
And now I'm going to start delegating some stuff. So like one co-host, he's going to have like kind of like an agenda of topics we'll talk about. Like he'll format everything. I'll have the other guy, he'll kind of help find the topics, right? And then me, I'm in charge of like editing it if I need to and publishing it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
The big problem I'm still having is audio.
Let's talk about it. What's going on?
Okay, so my biggest problem is, regardless, I've tried Zoom, I've tried other programs and stuff. When we're all talking, like our sound gets muffled, as like if 2 of them are talking and I jump in, my sound will be muffled, or vice versa.
What, the volume will go down, or it'll just sound cloudy?
It sounds as cloudy.
Okay.
And I don't know what that is.
And how is it being recorded for you guys? Are you guys doing it through like an OBS situation?
So right now I'm using Zencaster.
Okay.
And before that, I tried using Zoom. Before that, I tried using Discord, and I seem to get the same result. Okay.
So all right. So let's talk about how we have it right now, right? So right now we're doing Discord, me and you, right?
Yeah.
And then I have OBS running my input, and then your input, right? You're in comms and my OBS, and I'm in input and my input, right? Yeah. That sounds weird, but let's go with it. Right? Let's go with it, right? So right now, so knowing that, I'm not even going to use the audio for OBS because I have Voice Meter running in the background recording your channel and my channel. So I think if there's a way to do redundancy, and the reason I use Voice Meter is because price, right? It's a great program. Learning how it works is very interesting, and I'll definitely answer questions in a little bit. So thanks for the question. So Voice Meter was pretty much free. The labor was learning how it worked, right? So once I figured out how it worked, it was easy for me to go from there to make sure that as you're speaking, I'm not even worried. If the video were to cut off right now, I know Voicemeeter is still recording it, right? So if this conversation never gets out to the world, at least I know I had the opportunity to speak with you, right? So I'm joyful right now, right? That we're here, right?
Yeah.
But the redundancy would be the OBS recording. The redundancy would be the Twitch recording. The redundancy would be the Voicemeeter recording. So finding a way to separate those channels and other programs is one of the easiest way to tackle it. Now, Voicemeeter has a learning curve. Recently created a guide for that. Seems to be doing well. I try to make it as simple as possible to get it, and I think it's a program that's often overlooked. So separating the channels, if it's muffled, then I would say find a way to separate the channels either through the mixer, if you have like a physical mixer or a virtual mixer. Try to separate, your Discord conversation. Make sure that the audio is not peaking. So -3 or -1 would be ideal. So -3 for the audio is pretty ideal. If you need to set limiters on the person that's always popping, right? That'd be important, depending on how close they are to their microphone and stuff like that. If they're known to be inconsistent, right, with where they are, they may need to adjust their gain or volume level. Sometimes the volume level on the input for the individual is at 100%. On the global setting, maybe it needs to be 90 if they're too loud, if they're naturally loud. So just little things like that. We'll probably, try to get a little bit more balance for the audio stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I tried Voicemeeter like years ago, and it wasn't a very long endeavor because I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So maybe I'll have to relook into it.
It's great because it offers so much value, and I think that another thing I noticed too is like we don't put enough value on things that are free, right? So when you look at programs like DaVinci Resolve has an audio editor built into it, right? It's a free program if you download Resolve, or you can pay the one-time $2.99 if you want the full suite, right? Versus other programs that you're using that are like Adobe Suite and stuff like that you could potentially be paying like a monthly fee, but what are you paying for really, right? I think that question needs to be, asked whoever is, doing that. Or Audacity, right? Great program. Right. But the learning curve, once you get past that, it's an amazing program. So I think that we have a lot of tools. It's just finding, the right tutorials online or figuring out what the right plugin is, right? To use them and stuff like that. And then Reaper has some free plugins, and I know that a lot of OBSers use Reaper plugins to make sure their sound is legit and OBS and stuff like that. So they're out there. And my issue, if I had any, right? We're talking about, communities and how they operate and stuff like that. So let's kind of touch on that. My issue is if you're a community, you should have a lot of resources, right? And if you have the resources, then the resource should be shared, right? You shouldn't measure who can share or not share a particular resource, right? And if you believe a person is a member of your community, whether that's a demographic thing or, like an actual numbers thing, right? Then whoever's sharing the resource, you should amplify that resource is available, right? I have an issue with individuals who decide what to amplify. Okay. That's my issue with communities, right?
Got it.
Is what you decide to amplify tells me a lot about who you are as a person, right? And sometimes I'm off, but most of the time I'm not. So that's a sidebar on that. So what else do you got with audio? What else is happening?
That's pretty much honestly the main struggle that I have.
Okay.
The only other thing that I'm just like I'm trying to wrap my brain around it is like, what's your workflow for promoting an episode? Like, do you do clips? Like, what do you do for that?
Yeah, so I started doing with this conversation format with OBS and Twitch. I'll take a clip from the conversation, 50 seconds give or take, and then within that particular tweet, I'll post a short link for the Apple Podcast, a short link for the Spotify. I'll tag you on there. So your clip is going to be something from this conversation, and then it'll be there on Twitter, the links to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then I'm tracking that, right? I'm tracking who is using what more, right? Are they clicking on the Spotify more, or are they clicking on the Apple Podcasts more? And it seems like Apple Podcasts is winning right now. And the tool that I'm using to determine that is skip.gg. So if you create an account with skip.gg, you can create your own short links. It's short links created by Lobo Styles. So shout outs to him. He's the one that did streamerlinks.com, right?
Okay.
So he has streamerlinks.com as a tool, skip.gg as a tool. So I'm tracking, I could see within the platform of that skip.gg who's clicking what more. And it seems like Apple Podcasts is winning right now over Spotify. So don't decide what they're going to click on, right? We know that.
Right.
But having it available all in one shot, people can say, oh, there's a Spotify one. Or, oh, they're, whatever their favorite is. Because if I say that their favorite is Spotify and I only put Spotify, then I'm dictating that for them. And you may not get the listens and the views that you're looking for. But Apple Podcasts is winning right now. So it seems like a lot of people are using that.
That's smart. All right, I'm going to check out skip.gg. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as anything else for the podcast, let me see. What are some other pain points I have? That's all I got right now.
Okay. So Launchpad allows you to schedule it in advance, right?
Although when I'm uploading them, I never use the feature. I just publish it right away because I'm usually late publishing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the audio quality that you're pushing out? Is it are you pushing a WAV file, MP3 file? Are you pushing a 128K file? Or
it's a MP3?
Okay, so it's a compressed file. Sweet.
Okay.
And that compressed file, because of the length of your show, because there's a particular megabyte, it's like 1 megabyte per kilobyte, something weird. But typically when audio shows are posted, depending on whether it's a Joe Rogan or Mark Maron or Andrew Schultz, or you go down, right? The name of all the dope comedians out right now. Sometimes they may not necessarily think that measuring the file size is important. Mm-hmm. And it's super important because where the person is listening from, they may have bandwidth restrictions. And because of that, you have to say, because I'm aware that they may have bandwidth restrictions, I'll do the file either 48 kilobytes per second up to 64 kilobytes per second. So I started testing 48, and 48 still sounds legible. 32 kilobytes per second is kind of, you could hear the pixelated blocks, in it, right? So 48 is borderline how low I will go with the kilobytes per second. 64K mono is best because I've heard your podcast, so the audio sounds pristine anyway, right? Because you have great equipment. Everybody has great equipment, right? So the audio sounds great. So scaling it down to either 64 or 48 kilobytes per second, you're not going to take that hard of a hit. But what it does, though, it makes the file much smaller. And because it makes it smaller, anybody with bandwidth restrictions in another country or territory can manage how they listen to your show. And they're more inclined to give it more listens because they can manage that file size.
Oh, look at that. I just learned something new.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey. We're in the building, baby.
All right. Okay. I'm going to have to re-listen to this then. I got lots of notes I got to take.
Yeah. So yeah, you're looking out for individuals who are loving the platform. Podcasting it's not new. It's still, people are it's invigorating again, right? It has a great push of life again. And any shows that comes out, whether it's a Tiger King, I'm sure there's already a podcast talking about it, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody can, access the medium. And even scheduling, I think scheduling right now, I've been doing daily the last week. It feels like that because I want to have more conversations with more people because I believe that they may have some time on their hands right now. Maybe. That's just, how I'm kind of going about it. but scheduling, you know, with email invites really work, which work really well with you and I, right? You know, just send me an email invite and it's in my calendar, right? And I think that's important. And that's a free tool, you know, right? Google Calendar is a free tool, so free tools are really good.
Okay. Okay. Ooh, goody. Any other tips you want to hand over to me?
I think that don't be afraid to speak your mind on your podcast, and obviously you're not, right? Based on the first couple of episodes, and I think that it is essential. Podcasting is a personal medium, right? So it's essential for us to speak to the people that we're speaking to, because it's normally not a group listening; it's one person listening, right? Mm-hmm. And they're driving, walking their dogs. So I'm trying to get into the mindset of maybe doing some takeaways. I do some takeaways at the end now, which I haven't really done in a long time. So this show with me and you, I'll probably do like a separate audio piece. I'll do the intro separate, right? So I'll say, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the show radio. This is episode 532 of the show. I'm your host, Andrew, and this is your source for tech, gaming, and entertainment news. Head over to the show, right? So I have a format with that, right? And I'll say, on this episode, we spoke to Vanessa, and I really didn't know her last name up until, you know, and I'll probably maybe talk a little bit about that. That's an audio piece leading into this conversation, right? So the tail end, I'll probably do affiliates and stuff like that. So if you have affiliates that you're already promoting on other platforms, whether that's a YouTube platform or Twitch, then you could say, hey, if you like to get, because I know you have a beverage connection right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Voodoo Ranger.
Right. So if there's a percentage or a code that they can use, you can either do a pre-roll within the intro that we did, right? Mm-hmm. Leading into the conversation, you could say, hey, so definitely check out this product code, blah, blah, blah. I love this, you know, this is my jam, blah, blah, blah. And then you lead into that. So that's one. In the middle of the podcast, you could say, hey, just real quick, I wanted to let you know about, you could do another one right there, right? Mm-hmm. Separate audio. And then at the tail end, you can add some additional affiliates. You can have 3 pieces of content that after about 20 to 30 times, if they hear it enough, then they'll begin to access the those promo codes, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So stuff like that. So even for your videos, if you're cutting the video before it goes back up on YouTube, you can add like a video of you talking about it and then doing a lower third. Say, hey, you know, this drink, you know, this is my jam, right? So you can do like a separate, you know, video piece for that. Mm-hmm. You want to do something like that.
I like that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I got. I just want to hang out with you. That's all I got.
Hey.
That's all. So guys, if you have any questions, I did see a question. Have you used a TeamSpeak? TeamSpeak was used a while ago. I like Discord for what it offers because they are really on the cutting edge of technology. If you have any questions for Gothix, please feel free at this time. And I'm not gonna hold her. I think we're done. I think we had a great conversation. I got some stuff I want to send her via email and some contacts and stuff like that to help her continue to grind. You're doing an amazing job. I'm not gonna hold you.
I appreciate it.
Any final thoughts? Final bits of Zen advice before we get out of here?
Bits of Zen advice? Oh man. Especially now, focus on what you can control. I think, especially me, I've been going crazy like the last few weeks, trying to like get everybody to like take quarantine seriously, or even like if we're talking about like, you know, like the stuff I dealt with on Twitter with other streamers, like just take it easy, focus on what you can control. People are gonna do what they want regardless, and just, you know, remember what makes you happy, and just you know, stay true to that. And I think that's a big factor of why I'm so zen. I'm just like, nobody can touch me now. I'm just so like I'm ready to tackle the world. It's great.
That's awesome. And where can they find you? All the links. Where are you?
You can find me at Twitch/Gothix or Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Gothix TV.
Very cool. Yeah, so I would definitely say, Jeff, for the audio issues, definitely look into Voicemeeter. And I think if you do, I don't know if I have the command. If you do !Voicemeeter, it'll probably lead you to. Let me just do that real quick. Maybe I spelled it right. Yeah. So that will take you to the Voicemeeter banana tutorial.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so Gothix, you are an amazing human being. I wish you the very best. I would like to become friends. let's become the bestest of friends. If we could do that, that'd be awesome.
Good. You got my DMs are open. Slide in them. Let's be friends.
I appreciate that. So guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate you. We're actually gonna cut the live now. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon. Take care.